Hi, it's Ike from Groovy Entertainment. Today we got another book to read for you. Today, book of Curious George Discovers Germs from 2015. So let's get started. George is a good little monkey and always very curious. But sometimes even good little monkeys find themselves not feeling so well. How did George know he was sick? The story starts with biscotti sauce. George's favorite day of the week was sauce day at Chef restaurant. He always gave Chef some tips to make the best sauce. But today, instead of being able to taste the chef's new sauce, George couldn't taste anything. Chef sent George home, and the man with the yellow hat had sent George to bed. Then he took George's temperature, fever, stuffy nose, clammy paws, said the man. You are definitely fighting a germ, George. Do you know what a germ is? George was curious. The man got out a book. There was a picture of a funny looking blob. This is a bad germ, George. There are good germs and bad germs. A bad germ is making you sick, the man explained. Germs are very small. They can be found anywhere in your body, your nose, your mouth, your stomach, and your lungs. But that's enough biology for today. Tired monkey need their rest. George might have been sick, but he was still curious. Where did the germ come from? And more important, how could he get rid of it? He was still wondering when he dozed off. Soon George was dreaming. In his dream, he was very small, like a germ. He and his pal, the cat, was going to take a trip inside George's sleeping body to fight off the bad germs. George and the cat zoomed into sleeping George's mouth and landed right on his tongue. It was soft and squishy, and there was music playing. They hadn't expected that. What could it be? It seemed to be coming from his nose. When George and the cat got to the nose, they saw a funny looking blob streaming a guitar and singing. I'll make you stiff and I'll make you sneeze. You won't be smelling that smelly cheese. We'll make we'll be making you sweat and making you squirm because that's how germs are being germs. George could hardly believe his eyes. I'm Toot, the singing germ. He introduced himself, and these are my backup singer, the Germettes. Seeing Toot in his nose made George upset. He wanted that germ out of him, but Toot did not want to go. In fact, he took the germettes and headed to George's lungs, laughing and singing all the way. George and the cat chased the germs to the lungs. George noticed that when the lungs got smaller, air went out, and when the lungs got bigger, a rush of air came in. He was watching himself breathe. George's lungs gave him an idea. He remembered something he saw in the germ book. Coughing and sneezing are the lungs' way of doing their job and trying to force out bad germs. All George had to do was sneeze, toot right out of his body. George and the cat chased Toot and the germettes all the way to George's nose. Then, with one big sneeze, thanks to some well-positioned tiggles, out went Toot and the germettes, out into the air, looking for a new place to live. A few days later, George was feeling much better. He had taken lots of naps, drank lots of water and juice, and sneezed out those germs. He could even smell again, but it was clear where Toot and the germettes had found a new home. George's friend, the man with the yellow hat, was sick. The man had taken such good care of George when he was sick. Now George wanted to help his friend get better too, so he made some soup. George brought the soup to the man's bed. "Thanks, George," the man said, but when he tried the soup, he couldn't taste anything. George wanted to taste it, but his friend stopped him. "George, don't use that spoon. It might be covered with my cold germs. You don't want to get sick again, do you?" the man asked. George definitely did not want to get sick again. That made George curious. How else did germs get from one person to another? He looked at his germ book. George knew that the germ was in him just a few days ago, but his friend had not used George's spoon or fork or cup. Do you think the man caught George's germ when he sneezed or coughed? Looking at the book made George sleepy. He drifts into another dream. Now he and the cat was inside the man with the yellow hat body. There was that music again, coming from the man's stomach. They needed to find Toot so they could kick him out again. "Well, I've been lots of places, floating free as a wheeze, riding on your silverware, or flying on sleeves. I play in many people all across this great big land, especially in the fork who did not like to wash their hands, because soap makes me wiggle and soap makes me snare. One sign of soap, and this Toot is out of here." If George heard Toot correctly, getting his friend to wash his hand would be a good way to help him get rid of the germs and feel better. But Toot and the germettes remembered George and knew they needed to get away from him. "We are off to play in another body," Toot said. "They were going to infect someone else." "Get ready to hop on that hand when he wipes his nose," yelled Toot. And yelled Toot to his germettes. George didn't want the germs inside his friend, but he didn't want anyone else to get sick either. He had to stop them. When the bell rang and the man got up to answer the door, Toot and the germettes were ready for a new body. Professor Wiseman, she had also made soup for her sick friend. George and the cat zoomed out after the germs and landed with a thud on Professor Wiseman's hand. The germ was starter. "Oh, it feels like something is crawling on my hand," Professor Wiseman said. "I should probably wash them inside." Professor Wiseman went to the bathroom and washed Toot and the germettes right down the drain. Not only had George chased those germs out of his friend, he and some soap had stopped them from getting Professor Wiseman sick too. When George woke up from his dream, he felt great, but he went straight to the bathroom to wash his hands and feet just in case. After 2 icky adventures with Toot, this healthy little monkey wanted to stay that way. So that was Curious George Discovers Germs from 2015. So if you like, subscribe, share, and comment, have a groovy day with another video coming out real soon.